Hi everyone, Aidan here with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the BAK Revolver X4s rolling tonneau cover on our 2022 Ram 2500. This is going to be a really solid option as far as hard covers go. It's going to give you those same fuel economy benefits you get with any other tonneau cover, but offer you maximum security. Let's check it out. Now the cover is going to be constructed of a vinyl top to give it this nice clean look, almost like the look of a soft cover, but underneath it's filled with 1/4-inch thick aluminum slats. That's going to keep it nice and solid, and when paired in combination with your locking tailgate, is going to keep people out. Now nothing is thief proof, but that's certainly going to be the biggest deterrent because it's going to be a lot harder to get through this and through a lock than it would be with a soft cover that you could just cut open. Now underneath on either side there's going to be a pull cord that will release the end latch and allow you to roll the whole cover up. This is a really nice style of roll-up cover because it's very quick and easy, and the weight of that aluminum helps it roll out really smoothly too. So this rolls up to the cab of our truck. We can take the included straps on either side to secure it in place and keep it rolled up, so if we want that full bed access, we've got it. Now underneath there's no canister or anything like we might have with a retracting tonneau cover, and the whole package up here is minimal. So with the tri-fold design, those when they're fully folded up will block the whole back window. But you can see here, the space it's taking up is quite minimal. So it's kind of the best of both worlds in terms of that ease of use of the fold up tri-fold style, but also the sleekness of a retracting cover. The way the cover rolls out is pretty unique because it'll roll along these tracks right here, and when it hits the end, you can see this lever will pop out and lock every one of those slats into place. So while it's open like this, it's very smooth to unroll. But when it hits the end, that final latch is thrown and everything gets locked down. So at any point in the cover, it's secured. One of the downsides for this design though, is that you don't get any options for partial access. A lot of the retract tonneau covers that are retractable into a canister, you can stop them really at any point along the tracks and it'll hold its place. So if we only want to leave the bed partially open, maybe we've got some lumber or a ladder stuck out over the tailgate right here, and we don't need it fully closed, but we don't want it fully open either, we can do that. But for here, there's really no way to secure it like this. So it's either fully open or fully closed. You've got to pick one or the other. Now you can see all throughout the cover, it's very low profile. At the tallest point, only sticking up about 1/2 inch from the top of the bed rails, and that's at this end cap right here. Everywhere else, it's even more low profile. And over time, you can see there's a bit of this rubber stripping that's sticking up. This is straight out of the box, and it's pretty cold right now. So as it sits out in the sun and gets some heat, this will all start to lay even more flat as it lives on the truck over time. Now, one unique benefit of a hard cover like this is that it can support a little bit of weight. Whether you've got a tool bag or a heavy box like this, you can set it on top, get to your tailgate, and trust that the tonneau cover can support its weight for a little bit. It's rated at a 400-pound capacity as long as that weight is somewhat evenly distributed. So do keep that in mind. It's certainly not infinite, but it does help if you've got your hands full and need access to the tailgate. Now, as far as the water tightness goes, the tailgate and the sides here have a lot of weather stripping and are making really good seal, so I don't expect we'll have any sort of water intrusion around these areas. At the cab end of the truck, they do include a seal for the bulkhead, which does help get things all plugged up, but on this end there is a gap where you can get your hand or your finger in underneath the flap. So I'm not super confident about this spot right in particular, just because it doesn't lay super flat from the side of the bed rail to the bulkhead there. The foam seal is in place, but I'm not super confident about the water tightness of it compared to some other options out there. But where this cover really shines though is the ease of use and the ease of installation. There's very few adjustments you have to make throughout the install process, and we were able to get it on the truck really quickly with little to no issues at all. So we'll go ahead, walk through the process with you right now and see how you get it installed. Now to start off the installation, you're going to have a seal for the bulkhead of your truck bed here. Now depending on the bed liner that you have, you will have different thicknesses of seals. So if you've got a drop-in liner, there's a thinner 1/4 inch seal. Anything else is going to have this thicker 3/4 inch seal. So we're just going to peel off the adhesive backing and lay it across the bulkhead here and work our way down, just pressing it into the top. It's a good idea to maybe clean the surface before you do this so that you can get a clean adhesion to it, and just slowly peel it back, trying to keep everything nice and even, so whenever the tonneau cover sits on top of this, it keeps everything weather tight. Now at this point, we're ready to install the side rails. These are going to be side specific. There's a sticker on the top end. I'll bring this over to the camera here so you can see it better. But L is going to be for driver's side, R is going to be for passenger side. And you can also look at this plate here with the 2 slotted holes. That's going to be towards the front end, towards the cab. Now with this, we have a rubber seal. That's going to be towards the outside of the truck. And from there, your orientation should be pretty easy to figure out. Setting this over top the bed rail of the truck. And it can help to have an extra set of hands hold this down in place. But basically, we want to take our 3 clamps and start to install those. Now our extra set of hands is going to be applying some pressure out and down on the rail here. And we're going to get the clamp in place. The side with the nut that we can actually reach with a socket is going to be facing in towards the middle of the truck bed. And we want to place this clamp up as high as we can with the teeth engaging on the rail. This first one is going to go pretty much as close to the front as you can get it. Then we'll place one in the middle and then one towards the rear. No exact measurements are required. Just get it roughly in position as close to the front as you can get it. Once it's hand tight, it'll hold itself in place. You just come back through with a socket, tighten it down the rest of the way. It doesn't need to be super tight, but it does have a torque spec rating in the instructions, so just make sure it's all set to that. With all the clamps in, the rear one is pretty much as close to the back as we can get it, and the middle one is just splitting the 2 clamps on the front and back. It's firmly in place now. I can shake it around, and I'm not really getting any movement out of it, so it's definitely solid. We'll repeat this process for the other side. Now that both of the rails are in place, we can set the tonneau cover onto the rails. Now for this one, it's actually a fairly easy process because there's not a whole lot to lift. It's really just the rolling cover. So depending on your wingspan and how comfortable you are with it, you could potentially do it on your own, like I'm going to show you today. So just lift it up with all the packing materials removed, lift it into place, and set it at the tailgate between the 2 rails right here. Actually going to set it a little further towards the end here. And then we can start to roll it out. Now once you set the cover in place, it's a good idea to get out of the truck bed so you don't walk yourself into a corner, and then just roll it all the way towards the back. And as we make our way there, we'll get this cardboard piece out of the way. That's just packing material, so we won't have to worry about that once it's all removed. Now at the front of the cover, we can fold this back up and actually install some bolts into these 2 tracks right here. I'll pull this up so it's a little easier to see on camera. These bolt heads will just slide right in to place, and they'll line up with the slotted holes we saw on our side brackets earlier. So just get those in place on both sides and fold them over so that they are lining up, potentially moving the cover side to side a little bit to accommodate for that, and get this in place. And underneath, to secure those bolts in place, we'll have a rubber washer, a metal flat washer, and a hand knob that will thread onto the threads of that bolt. Repeat that for all 4 bolts, 2 on each side. And to make it a little easier, I'm going to roll the cover up as I do this. We'll just get these hand knobs threaded in place, keeping them somewhat loose until we have our final positioning all figured out with the tonneau cover, and we've done a few test closes on it. Now with the hand knobs loosely in place, I'm going to do a test rollout. So as we're doing this, just make sure everything's sliding in between the rails properly. And once it gets to the end here, we want to make sure on both sides that it latches properly. And it does. One other important part of the fitment test is your tailgate. You want to make sure that your tailgate closes properly, we get good coverage over the end of the tailgate, and that we can still also open it without any sticking or issues. All this is looking really good, so I'd say we're good to roll it back up. Go back to those hand knobs and fully tighten them down now that I know it's all in the proper position. If for whatever reason we needed to make adjustments, that's why we left it loose. We can slide things forward and back and also skew it side to side if it's not running perfectly straight back to the tailgate. So if it's fine, tighten it up. If it's not, make those adjustments and test it again. With everything in position, we can now install our strap clamps. Now these are going to be much like the other clamps we installed earlier, except they come with a strap attached. These are going to be to hold the cover in this rolled up position. So just install it right next to the front clamp as close as you can get it, and then route the strap over. The whole process for attaching the clamp is the exact same. The strap will run over to the back side by the cab here, slot into the strap keeper, turn and lock in place, and then we can pull the strap tight to hold it there. And at this point, if your hand knobs were not fully tightened, I found that this actually relieves a bit of pressure and it allows you to hand tighten them a little bit more. So just do that on both sides to make sure everything's rock solid, and then you're good to go. And then your kit does include these bumpers with the adhesive backing on there. That's designed so if the cover isn't strapped down or it comes close to your cab, it's going to prevent this from touching the back glass of the cab. Now in our application today, it really doesn't roll up any further than this, but I am going to apply these anyway in case for whatever reason over time things shift. But I'm just going to pick some positions, probably in the center and on the sides here, so that if it were to ever make contact or rattle whenever we're driving down the road, there is that protective layer so that this metal isn't touching the glass. And that'll do it for the install process. Overall, it's a very straightforward installation, no drilling required, which is great to see. Everything clamps into place, and all the adjustment points for this tonneau cover are pretty solid. There's not a whole lot of back and forth like you might have to do on some of the retracting covers. Those typically have a lot of adjustment points on the side rails and can be difficult to install in some applications. But for our application today, it's a really solid fit, and it's going to be a really solid cover for your 2022 Ram 2500. Thanks for watching.